Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today in this video, I wanted to talk about the LEC, and more specifically, I wanted to talk about Misfits. Now, this is a team that obviously finished overall pretty well in the spring split. I don't remember if they finished third or fourth in the regular season, but they were towards the top of the standings, and that was a big surprise to a lot of people. They finished above, some pretty good teams, some pretty good players, despite the fact that Misfits was kind of Vetheo and a little bit neon against the world. They had a lot of come from behind victories. They won a lot of games that they probably shouldn't have and then probably wouldn't have had they run back the same games. Obviously, things didn't go as well for them in the playoffs, but still they were an interesting team. Yes, they did replace Herit with Irrelevant coming into the summer split, and people had mixed expectations for them. I obviously was not too high on them. Like I said, I think a lot of those games in the spring they probably shouldn't have won and probably wouldn't have won if you played them again. So I didn't think they were going to be able to recreate that same magic going into the summer split, but obviously they have the defending LEC MVP in Vetheo, and if he was going to pull off some magic once again, maybe this Misfits team could be something special. Maybe they could ultimately compete for a world spot or something like that. Now, hey, this isn't what I thought was going to happen. I predicted them to be the 7th place team, and maybe not even making the playoffs in the summer split in the LEC, but even I didn't predict how poorly the season has started for Misfits. If we take a look at their games, they didn't have the easiest schedule in the world, but it definitely wasn't the hardest. They didn't play like anyone crazy. They played Excel and then Vitality and then Astralis. And Excel is a pretty solid team. They're maybe even some people's like dark horse sleeper pick. Then you have Vitality, who is maybe some other people's sleeper or dark horse pick, but I don't really think anyone sees Excel or Vitality as like a top 2 team in the LEC or anything like that. So it's not like they played like G2 and Fnatic or G2 and Rogue or any of the real consensus top teams in the LEC, and then they got a game with Astralis, who most people had somewhere between 8th and 10th coming into the season, and obviously Misfits went 0-3. So this is going to be bad news for Misfits because they're looking really rough. Not many of these, I don't even think any of these games, not that I can remember, were really all that competitive, but so obviously that's kind of, maybe legitimizing a lot of the concerns and a lot of the criticism about Misfits coming into the split that, yeah, maybe they were a fraudulent top team. Maybe they're not a top team in the LEC after all. And maybe replacing Herit for Irrelevant wasn't going to solve all their issues or solve all their problems or anything like that. Maybe it even created some new problems or created some new issues. Who knows for sure? And this obviously decreases their chances of making playoffs. It decreases their chance of going to Worlds, all that stuff. But who I do think this is the worst news for, and this is what I want to talk about mostly in this video, is Vetheo. This guy is the defending LEC MVP, and he is also now in this summer split on the last split of his contract with Misfits. That means in this offseason, he is going to be a free agent. Now, we don't know if he wants to stay with Misfits or if he wants to leave. I think the assumption from everyone is at least he wants to test free agency, but most likely he is interested in leaving. I don't know if that's because he wants to go play for a better team, if he wants to go make more money. I don't know exactly what Misfits is offering or anything like that, but again, if he just was really happy with Misfits and wanted to stay and was happy with their offers, he would have re-signed by now, because we know Misfits is definitely offering him contract extensions. Again, Misfits hasn't been a very good team in the LEC recently. They're not going to be offering contract extensions to a guy good enough to win the LEC MVP for their team and kind of making them relevant, at least somewhat relevant for the first time in a while. So yeah, we know he's going to want to be testing free agency. And again, if he wants to get the best offers in terms of team and roster, but also in terms of money, he's going to have a really good split. He's going to have to pop off because even though he just won the MVP, even though he's known as a good, young, up-and-coming player, maybe even some people's pick to be like the next Caps or Perks or even the next like Humanoid or Larson, a guy on that level, just a staple top mid laner in the LEC for years to come. This is obviously a very, very valuable asset. He's maybe even a guy who people, consider being a candidate to go over and get imported into the LCS. Maybe teams like 100 Thieves or teams like TSM would be interested in a guy like this, a really young guy, ton of years ahead of him, a ton of talent, ton of potential. Again, an LEC MVP. But in League of Legends, we know everything is what have you done for me lately. You can look none other to just last split over in the LCS where Summit won the LCS MVP in the spring. This guy was a monster. This guy was dominant throughout the regular season. Started to fall off a little bit towards the end of the regular season and then fell off a cliff into the spring playoffs. I don't know if I said spring or summer, but end of the spring regular season, and then fell off a cliff into the spring playoffs. And now he's out of the LCS entirely. He got kicked from Cloud9. He wasn't picked up by any LCS teams. Now he's over in the LPL. And who knows how things are going to go for him. So point being, if Vetheo has a bad split, I don't think he's going to end up out of the LEC. He's definitely going to end up with a spot, especially, Summit had a big contract and Summit was an import and had a lot of things going against him. Vetheo is going to be a resident and he's young, has a bright future, and is still going to garner some interest from somebody. But the difference is between Vetheo having a good performance in this summer split and having a bad performance individually and as a team could end up being, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in career earnings throughout the rest of his career, but also could be the difference of him ending up on like a top tier roster, a top tier team, a top tier organization, and continuing to be stuck on a middle tier team and organization like Misfits or somebody similar to that. So this is a very, very big time for Vetheo, and so far, things are going really, really bad. If we dive into some of these games, we will see against Excel, Vetheo went 0-2-0 on Orianna. Yes, he had 270 CS, which was the most in this game, and it wasn't even close. But he's 0-2-0. They almost got perfect gamed. They got 2 towers, but other than that, they really did nothing. And this was a rough one. This was 15-0 in kills for Excel. And when it's a game like that, you're not going to have, time to really do anything. I don't think anyone's blaming this loss on Vetheo, but you're also not getting any opportunities to shine. You're not getting any highlight moments. You're not adding to your star power, your brand, your value, to other teams or organizations or anything like that. But hey, this is the first game of the year. Excel, like I said, maybe they're an underrated team. Maybe Excel is going to be good. Then you get to go up against Vitality, and this is interesting because Perks has really called out Vetheo somewhat in the past. He said he's not totally sold on Vetheo. He doesn't really consider Vetheo to be one of those S-tier level mid laners in the LEC as far as the guys, like Caps, Larson, Humanoid, those guys. Perks doesn't consider Vetheo in that kind of conversation. And hey, he gets a chance to match up against him, and this is how things go. Vetheo goes 1-7-2. So through 2 games into the season, he's 1-9-2. That's not great. That's not a good start. And Perks popped off in this game. He's 8-2-11 on the Corki. And then finally, hey, we get an easy game. We get to end the Super Week with Astralis. Yeah, we're only going to go 1-2, but hey, it's better than being 0-3 or anything like that. But hold up, wait. They drop a game to Astralis. And in this game, Vetheo again goes 1-5-4 on Silas. And this is really, really rough because Vetheo's thing in the spring split was he didn't have a ton of great laning phases. It's not like he was getting solo kills all over the place. It's not like he was popping off insanely like that. But what he did was he was always scaling up. He was always a threat. Even if his team was down 5, 7, 10,000 gold, Vetheo was still going to be a late game threat. He was still going to be a guy who had an opportunity to pop off in team fights. And a lot of times he found ways to do that. But right now, Misfits is getting dominated so hard, he's not even having time to scale up. And it's not like he's playing perfectly either. Again, you die 7 times in a game. You go, 1-7-2, you go 1-5-4. You're obviously making some mistakes, but nobody else on his team is really helping him that much either. And if Misfits is going to be a bottom 3 or 4 team in the summer split, it's going to be tough for Vetheo to stand out like he did in the spring split. Again, this is heading into free agency. He's maybe in a position where he's overall going to have a rough split where he's not going to look as good. He's not going to stand out as much. And again, that's absolutely going to impact the offers he is about to get. Now, I still think he's going to be one of the biggest free agents we see in this upcoming offseason. But hey, if this was the spring split and then he headed into free agency, I think things would be a lot crazier. Things would be a lot bigger than whatever's about to happen to Misfits this split. And it could get really ugly. It could get really rough, which definitely increases the chances of Vetheo leaving, but also potentially decreases the overall offers and stuff he's going to get. Also kind of interesting, we can look at this. This is Misfits at the bottom of the standings. We expected BDS. We expected SK to be down here, but I don't think anybody expected Misfits to be 0-3 after this week, all the way at the bottom of the LEC standings. But then also, we see at the end of the Astralis game, let me mute this real quick, I guess. You can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, Vetheo actually alt F4s at the end of the game. Now, this was after, during the Nexus exploding or right after it had exploded or whatever. So I don't think he should get in trouble for that. I don't think he's going to be, fined or anything like that. But alt F4ing during the game is usually something that might get you in a little bit of trouble. It might get you a warning, might get you a little fine, something like that. And that might be something to watch out for. This might be Vetheo showing, even only 1 week into the season, that he might be a little tilted. He might be a little upset already. He is a known tilted tilter. He is a very, very emotional player. He's a solo queue tilter and a guy who's, a little bit toxic and stuff like that. And a lot of people have already said, hey, I don't blame Vetheo. He should be tilted. He should be mad. His team sucks. This is hard to watch. This has to be so frustrating for him to play in when he is a, MVP caliber player and his whole team is just kind of dogs. And now they're losing to Astralis and now they're 0-3. And now, as soon as their summer split has started, it's kind of looking like it might already be over. But hey, also him being tilted, him being frustrated, him being mad, upset. This is also stuff that could, work his way into maybe him playing worse throughout the split. And again, impacting the offers he gets this offseason. So yes, a rough start to the season for Misfits. Definitely bad news for them, but this wasn't a team I thought was going to Worlds anyway, so I don't really care that much about that. But definitely some bad news for Vetheo going on. But that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Let me drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about this start to the season for Vetheo. And Misfits, let me know, if you think this matters at all for him going into the, off season or where you think he's going to end up in 2023. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, save up to date on all my latest content. Hope to catch you guys on the next one. But until then, peace.